Have you ever noticed how much energy you waste trying to make life make sense? How every plan, every checklist, every backup plan is just another way of saying, I'm scared. We tell ourselves it's preparation. We call it responsibility. But deep down, it's fear. Fear of not knowing, fear of losing control, fear of being caught off guard by the chaos that never stops moving. You feel it, don't you? That tension in your chest when things don't go according to plan. That quiet panic when the future doesn't look like the picture you painted. It's exhausting, living like that, trying to manage what was never yours to control. There's a part of you that already knows this, the part that remembers the times everything went wrong and somehow still worked out, the moments that didn't follow the plan but led you somewhere better. That part of you has always known that life was never meant to be a straight line. It was meant to twist, break, and surprise you. It was meant to teach you that certainty is a story the mind tells to feel safe. And the more you chase that story, the further you drift from peace. We build our lives around the illusion that if we can just predict enough, prepare enough, plan enough, we'll finally relax. But it never happens, does it? Because the moment you think you've figured it out, life changes the rules. The people you counted on leave. The job you thought was stable disappears. The things you thought would make you happy start to feel hollow. And suddenly, you realize how fragile your sense of control really is. You can't predict the next storm. You can't plan the next miracle. You can't script what's meant to surprise you. But maybe that's not a curse. Maybe it's the invitation you've been ignoring. Because what if peace isn't found in control, but in surrender? What if the only way to stop drowning is to stop fighting the current? You've spent years trying to make life certain, when all it's ever asked of you is to trust. Trust that not knowing doesn't mean failing. Trust that the unknown isn't danger. It's life in its rawest form. Let that idea sink in for a moment. The idea that everything you fear about uncertainty might be the very thing that sets you free. Because when you stop clinging, when you stop demanding that life guarantee you something before you take the next step, you start to feel lighter. The weight on your chest begins to fade. The noise in your head starts to quiet. You begin to see that uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's the space where growth begins. It's the pause between who you were and who you're becoming. Think about the moments that shaped you most, the heartbreaks, the failures, the sudden changes that felt like endings but turned out to be beginnings in disguise. None of those came from certainty. It came from chaos, from the unknown, from moments you never wanted but somehow needed. That's the strange, beautiful truth. Everything that grows must first be uncertain. The seed doesn't know it will become a tree. The child doesn't know what the world will demand of them. And you don't need to know what's next to live fully right now, so breathe. Stop trying to hold the universe still. It was never yours to control. You were never meant to predict every wave. You were meant to learn how to ride them. You were meant to trust the movement, not resist it. You were meant to feel the fear and walk forward anyway. There's freedom waiting behind the fear of not knowing. A kind of freedom that doesn't depend on outcomes or guarantees. The kind that comes when you finally accept that uncertainty isn't something to escape. It's something to embrace. Because when you stop fighting what is uncertain, life starts to move with you, not against you. And in that surrender, you find a quiet truth. Life was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to teach you to let go, to stop grasping for control, and start flowing with what is. That's where ease lives. That's where peace begins. Not when everything is known, but when you finally trust that it doesn't have to be. When you finally stop fighting what you can't control, something powerful begins to shift. The noise in your mind doesn't disappear, it transforms. What once sounded like chaos starts to sound like rhythm. The world hasn't changed, but your relationship with it has. You begin to realize that peace was never about stillness. It was about surrender. the kind of surrender that isn't weakness, but pure strength, the kind that takes courage to stand in the middle of uncertainty and still breathe deeply. You've spent so long trying to build walls to protect yourself from the unknown. But those walls don't keep danger out. They keep life out. They keep love, growth, and possibility locked away behind the illusion of safety. You weren't meant to live behind barriers. You were meant to stand in the open, vulnerable but free, exposed to the wind of change that shapes everything it touches. Every moment you resist uncertainty, you shrink. Every time you embrace it, you expand. And that expansion is what your soul has been craving. You can feel it in the quiet moments when you're tired of pretending to be in control. That whisper in your chest, that ache that says there's something more, that's life calling you to let go, to trust, to leap without the promise of where you'll land, because that's where the real magic begins. That's where the old version of you dissolves and something greater begins to emerge. Fear will try to stop you. It always does. It will whisper that you'll fall, that you'll fail, that you're not ready. But fear doesn't mean stop. It means go. It's the compass, pointing directly toward what matters most. Fear lives in the same place as your deepest potential. If you run from it, you run from yourself. But if you face it, if you walk straight into it, something extraordinary happens. You realize it was never as powerful as you thought. The unknown loses its teeth the moment you stop running from it. You don't need certainty to move forward. You need trust. Trust in your ability to adapt, to rise, to rebuild if things fall apart. Think of everything you've already survived. The heartbreaks that felt endless. The nights you thought you'd never get through. The losses that forced you to rebuild from ashes. You did that. You endured what you once thought you couldn't. That's proof. Proof that you are built for uncertainty. Proof that life doesn't destroy you, it transforms you. Every moment you release control, you create space for something real to enter. New people, new chances, new energy. Life rushes in the second you stop trying to cage it. That's when opportunities appear, when clarity unfolds naturally, without force. It's not luck, it's alignment. You stop chasing what isn't meant for you and start attracting what is, because when you're no longer fighting life, you're finally flowing with it. And in that flow, you begin to understand something sacred. You were never supposed to have it all figured out. The beauty of life lies in its uncertainty. That's where wonder lives. That's where creativity breathes. That's where transformation happens. Certainty kills curiosity. It ends discovery. It numbs you. Uncertainty wakes you up. It reminds you that you are alive, moving, evolving, becoming. So take the leap you've been avoiding. Say yes before you're ready. Walk into the unknown and let it remake you. Every great change begins in uncertainty. Every rebirth begins with a step into the dark. You don't need to see the whole path, just the next step. That's all life ever asks of you. Trust the step. The ground will appear beneath you, it always does. And when it does, you'll look back and see that all the fear, all the resistance, all the moments you wanted to turn back, they were the doorway. The unknown was never against you. It was guiding you. Every detour, every delay, every twist in the story, it was never punishment. It was preparation for this version of you. The one that no longer needs control to feel peace. The one that finally understands that freedom isn't found in knowing, it's found in trusting. Let that truth settle deep inside you. You don't need guarantees. You don't need perfect timing. You just need courage. The courage to stop waiting for certainty and start living fully. Because when you embrace uncertainty, life doesn't just get easier, it becomes limitless. There comes a point when you realize that waiting for certainty is another way of hiding. You say you're being patient, that you're preparing, that you're just not ready yet, but deep down, you know that's not true. You're waiting for fear to disappear, and it never will. You're waiting for a guarantee, and life doesn't give those. It never has. The longer you wait, the more you convince yourself that safety lies in standing still. But nothing grows in stillness. Nothing changes when you keep waiting for permission to begin. The truth is, fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that something inside you is waking up, that you're standing at the edge of your own potential. Every great change begins with that trembling feeling, that moment when your heart races and your mind screams for control. But that's not danger, it's transformation announcing itself. Fear isn't there to hold you back. It's there to test your faith in yourself, to see if you'll finally trust your strength more than your doubt. You don't overcome fear by fighting it. You overcome it by moving through it, by proving to yourself that you can act even when your hands shake. That's what power really is. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to move anyway. The difference between the people who change their lives and the ones who don't isn't talent or luck. It's trust. Trust in the process. Trust that no matter what happens, you'll find a way to rise. Because you always do, you always have. Look at everything you've already survived. Every heartbreak that cracked you open. Every failure that forced you to start over. You thought those moments broke you, but they built you. They burned away the parts of you that couldn't carry you forward. And now, here you are, standing again, breathing again, stronger than you've ever been. That strength didn't come from certainty. It came from walking through chaos and realizing it couldn't destroy you. So stop treating uncertainty like a threat. It's not trying to break you. It's trying to free you. It's showing you what you're capable of when you stop needing everything to be predictable. The world opens up when you stop trying to control it. The opportunities you couldn't see before start to appear. The people you're meant to meet start crossing your path. Life starts aligning with you the moment you stop resisting its flow. But to reach that place, you have to let go of the version of yourself that's built around control. The version that believes peace comes from having all the answers. You have to let that identity die, because it's too small for the life you're meant to live. Growth always demands a death. The death of who you were, of the stories that kept you safe but stuck. You can't step into expansion while clinging to the old. You can't receive what's next if your hands are still holding on to what was. This is the turning point. The place where you stop asking, what if it goes wrong? And start asking, what if it goes right? Because it might. It might go better than you could ever imagine. But you'll never know until you take the step. The only way to experience the fullness of life is to walk into it, unguarded, unprepared, unafraid of not knowing. That's where transformation happens. That's where peace lives. In the moment you decide that not knowing is okay, and it is okay. You don't need to predict every outcome. You don't need to control every detail. You just need to keep moving, keep trusting, keep breathing through the uncertainty until it becomes familiar. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the unknown wasn't the enemy. It was the path. The very thing that scared you was the doorway to everything you've ever wanted. So stop waiting for clarity. Stop waiting for the fear to fade. Stop waiting for a sign that it's safe to live. This is your sign. This moment, this heartbeat, this breath. Life is happening now, wild, uncertain, and beautifully unpredictable. You can keep standing on the edge or you can jump. And when you do, you'll discover something you were never told. The fall isn't what breaks you. It's what sets you free. The moment you let go, truly let go, something inside you shifts forever. The fear that once controlled you begins to lose its grip. The uncertainty that once felt unbearable starts to feel alive. You begin to understand that life isn't something to master. It's something to meet, moment by moment, with open hands. Every heartbeat becomes an act of trust. Every breath becomes a quiet rebellion against the idea that you need to know where you're going before you start walking. You've been taught to chase stability, to build your life around what feels safe. But safety is an illusion that costs too much. It costs your passion, your purpose, your spark. You can spend your whole life protecting yourself from uncertainty and still lose everything that makes you feel alive. Because comfort isn't peace, It's quiet suffocation. It's the slow fading of who you could have been. And you can feel it deep down. That small voice that whispers, there's more than this. That whisper is your truth trying to breathe again. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next honest step, even if your voice shakes, even if your heart is pounding, even if you have no map to follow. Because the path reveals itself in motion, not in waiting. Every step you take in faith expands what's possible. Every risk, every leap, every time you move before you feel ready, it builds a kind of power that control could never give you. That's how you become unstoppable, not because you're fearless, but because fear no longer decides who you are. The world doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards movement. It rewards those who act, who trust, who refuse to let uncertainty dictate their destiny. Life belongs to the ones who jump, who risk falling, who understand that falling isn't failure, it's part of flight. You cannot rise if you refuse to leave the ground. You cannot discover what's possible while clinging to what's familiar. You have to let yourself fall into the unknown, not because it's easy, but because it's real. And the truth is, you already know how to do this. You've done it before. Every time you've grown, it's been through uncertainty. Every turning point, every transformation, every breakthrough started with not knowing. You've walked through darkness before and found your way. You've lost things you thought you couldn't live without. And yet you're still here. Stronger, wiser, more awake. The unknown has never destroyed you. It's only ever made you. So what are you still holding on to? What story are you still telling yourself about needing more time, more proof, more certainty? There will never be a perfect moment. There will only ever be this one, imperfect, unpredictable, and completely yours. Waiting for clarity is a trap. The only clarity that exists comes from action. The moment you move, the fog starts to lift. The moment you trust, the path begins to form. But you have to leap first every second you spend. Hesitating is a second you trade away from the life that's waiting for you. Every excuse you repeat is a wall between you and your own potential. You know what needs to be done. You've always known. The only thing standing in the way is fear disguised as logic, doubt dressed as reason. But the truth is simpler than that. You are capable. You are ready. You are built for this moment. This isn't about recklessness. It's about faith. Faith that you can handle whatever comes next. Faith that even if you stumble, you'll rise. Faith that life is not happening to you. It's responding to you. When you move, the world moves with you. When you trust, doors begin to open. When you surrender, life stops being a battle and becomes a dance. So stop waiting, stop overthinking, stop standing in the doorway of your own life. The universe doesn't reward those who hesitate, it rewards those who dare. Step forward into the uncertainty, let it swallow your fear and show you what freedom feels like. Because once you embrace it, once you stop demanding guarantees and start trusting the flow, something miraculous happens. Life starts to feel easy, not because it's predictable, but because you finally stop needing it to be. There's a moment when you stop chasing and start allowing, when the fight to control everything inside you finally burns out and all that's left is truth. That truth is simple. Life was never supposed to be tamed. It was meant to be lived. Every plan, every timeline, every expectation you've ever clung to, they were never guarantees. They were illusions that kept you small. Because deep down, you don't want control. You want freedom. You want to wake up and feel alive again. You want to breathe without fear of what's next. And that freedom begins when you stop demanding certainty from a world that was never built to give it. The world moves in waves. It rises and falls. It breaks and rebuilds. You can either fight the tide until it drowns you, or you can learn to ride it and see where it takes you. That's the difference between living in fear and living in flow. One resists life, the other becomes part of it. The truth is, every time you resist uncertainty, you create pain. Every time you cling, you suffer. But when you release that grip, even for a moment, life begins to move through you again. The weight you've been carrying starts to dissolve. The pressure to know, to be sure, to have it all together, it fades. And in its place, comes something new. Lightness, clarity, trust. Not the kind that comes from having the answers, but the kind that comes from knowing you'll be okay even without them. You've spent years believing that control equals safety, but the safest people are rarely the happiest. They survive, but they don't live. They walk through their days numb, trying to protect themselves from pain, not realizing they've also shut themselves off from joy. You can't have one without the other. You can't experience the beauty of life if you're constantly shielding yourself from its unpredictability. The cracks you're trying to hide are where the light gets in. Let yourself break open. Let yourself feel uncertain. That's where real transformation begins. The moments that scare you most are the ones that are shaping you into who you're meant to be. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from surrender. You are not here to avoid life. You're here to meet it, to stand in the middle of the storm and realize you are not fragile. You are built for this. You are wired for adaptation. You are the proof that chaos can create something beautiful. Every time you trust the unknown, you tell the universe, "I'm ready," and it responds. It sends people, chances, possibilities that would never have appeared if you'd stayed where it was safe. But you have to leap first. That's the law of expansion. You move, then life moves with you. Waiting for certainty before acting is like waiting for courage before jumping. It never comes. The courage comes from the act itself. You have to believe that life is working in your favor, even when you can't see how. You have to believe that every detour, every delay, every unanswered question is shaping you in ways you can't yet understand. The mind craves logic, but the soul craves faith. Faith in the process, faith in yourself. Faith that no matter what happens, you will rise again, because you always do. You can keep standing in the doorway of your own life, trying to calculate every outcome, or you can walk through and finally see what's on the other side. You already know what staying the same feels like. It's time to find out what freedom feels like. Let the uncertainty become your ally, not your enemy. Let it remind you that you are alive, that you are capable, that you are meant for more than just surviving. There's no perfect moment coming, no sign from the sky that tells you when to begin. The only moment that matters is this one, the one you're in right now. You are ready, even if your mind says you're not. You've been ready for longer than you think. So take the step, say yes, leap. The unknown is waiting to show you just how powerful you really are. And when you finally stop needing to control everything, you'll discover that life becomes effortless. Not because it's easy, but because you've learned to trust the flow.